little bit, went over a history of blackjack that I've done and stuff like that. So
Exactly. To be honest, that the last webinar that we did, to be honest, our webinar got as many watches as almost any of the videos that they do in that $100,000 studio. I mean, I still am getting people saying, just saw your webinar. Can you send me the ARP sheet? When are you in VR going to do it again? So let's get to the meat and potatoes. I'm Johnny Detroit, one of the owners of Pregame.com, the people's champ. With me is the man himself, probably one of the most famous people at Pregame, in my opinion, one of the most likable people I ever met, and one of the most real people I ever met. And one of the people I can actually say is a little more ghetto fabulous than even I am, and that's my man Vegas Runner. So we're going to get right to it. We're going to get to basketball season. And before we get to the Q&A, VR, I'm just going to hand it over to you. I want you to tell me why you like basketball, some things you are preparing for, and anything you want to talk about. I'll jump in as needed. From there, we're going to go to some futures I want to ask you about, some season over-unders, and then we're going to get to the questions, and then we're going to close out with some coupons. So, VR, you send me an email with some of the stuff you wanted to talk about. Floor is yours.
for me, it's simple, man. The reason I love basketball is the same reason I love baseball. It's every day. It's every day, and we have games to bet, and the odds makers, bookmakers just have a limited amount of time to come out with a number. And what that means is that they're going to simply use their power ratings more times than not, especially early on in the season when the market's saturated with wise guy money. And as a recreational bettor, I think that's when you really got to pay attention and respect line moves. As the season goes on, we know that money and respect moves lines. And as the season goes on, more casual bettors saturate the marketplace, and you'll see a lot of primetime games, a lot of TV games, marquee games where the line will move, but that's not wise guy related. It's public money related. But early on in the season, rest assured, most of the betting publics only get involved those nights that there's not football, and the majority are only parlaying and teasing the games. So books aren't even worried about that. The hold's so high, they have no reason to adjust. So as a casual bettor, reading the market early on gives you a big advantage. As a professional bettor, knowing that the books have a limited amount of time to create a number, knowing you have so much volume you could move, because remember, you only have a small edge, and it's just like blackjack. I like to compare the two because the hold may be bigger on sports than it is in blackjack, but the key to winning when you have an edge is volume. Knowing if I could sit there for enough hours and see enough hands, because I have an edge, I'm going to come out on top. And it's the same thing with sports. When you have an edge, I may go 1-9 the next 10 games. That's irrelevant. My edge isn't really going to show up until you get into the law of big numbers. But I start putting in 100 plays, 200 plays, 300 plays, my edge is going to start grinding out a profit for me. And that's why I love sports like basketball, sports like baseball, where we have a huge board each and every day.
In terms of NBA versus college, at least for me, is one of the things that I like looking at is I'm a big fan of NBA totals, specifically for middle. And I did a webinar the other day with Mike Hook, and I usually see the total start moving between 11 a.m. Eastern and about 1 o'clock Eastern. My guess was, I mean, there's no hard facts to this, is I just believe that when you get, a lot of the West Coast guys in the Vegas and whatnot, I mean, that's 8, 9 o'clock in the morning when they start doing their thing. They're hitting the board, they're moving the stuff around. And in college basketball, to me, and I always have a rule. If Pinnacle, it's funny saying Pinnacle now, if all that shit just happened. But like Pinnacle and some of the other books.
There's a wiretap. Anyone that says Pinnacle, man, all of a sudden it lights up, man. You're going to get a warrant tomorrow.
The door gets kicked in. Pinnacle, Chris, any of those places, if they don't allow you to do something, or if you could look at the betting limits and certain things, limits are different when it's a major sport, there's a reason why. And I remember for years, you can kind of do what you wanted in basketball for the most part. I mean, not compared to the NFL, but there was a stretch, it started with right angle, is the sharps and people are beating the college basketball total so much. Like, a lot of these books they weren't even putting up totals until conference play in a lot of these games. And, I mean, I remember Pinnacle for a while, they had like limits at $250 on a college basketball total. And when you see Pinnacle in places like Run Scared, I guess you could say, that's when and you have to kind of say, why are they allowing me to bet whatever I want on this? But all of a sudden on this, they're lowering their limits because the books are running scared and their numbers aren't accurate. VR, do you have anything to add to that?
It's so true. It's like sometimes I've even seen it out here where I've gone to a casino, and because the point spread's so high, maybe in an NFL game, when it's a one game, a standalone game, and the spread's minus 15 and the total's 45, they're not going to let you take a parlay because they know that game's correlated, meaning if the favorite covers, the probability of it going over is much higher than, what their hold is as compared to the payout. And therefore, they don't want to book that bet. Anytime they don't want to book a bet, I know I have an edge. We see the same thing during the NFL playoffs. Out here in Vegas, there's sports books that'll take 5,000, 10,000 on an NFL total, teaser, on any Sunday during the season. All of a sudden, NFL playoffs come, and those same books that were taking 10 dimes now will only take a nickel. And the reason for that is because they know that the edge is so much greater to the bettor, and even the vig that they charge, which is astronomical on a teaser, that it should be even higher. In fact, odds makers, bookmakers out here have gone on record saying a two-team 6.5-point teaser in the NFC-AFC championship game should cost players about 160, 170. So they know when they don't have an edge. And when it comes to NBA, when it comes to college basketball, most times they don't want to put out a line like you said, JD. And more importantly, when they do put that number out, they don't want to take more than $3. Most wise guys that I know, most movers that I know, they don't even hit the casinos here. I mean, they rarely even now with football, they know that if they get down, if they make a big play at one of the books here, word's going to spread, they're not going to be able to get their money down. So instead what happens is they hold these plays back, they bury them through local bookmakers throughout the country, and then eventually they go offshore. Because even like you said at Penny, which I'm afraid now my door is going to get kicked down, the truth of the matter is, what are they going to give you, 20,000 in NFL or during the week and 50,000 on game day? For most betting syndicates, that's not enough to tip your hand and let every bookmaker on the planet adjust their line because Penny did it or Chris did it or the Greek did it. So I agree with you 100%. Whenever they don't want to take action, it's because they know that they're vulnerable and they'll be exposed. And no better example than in college and NBA. And let's not forget, in the first week of college basketball and NBA, the first month, let's say, you're going to see line moves of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points. I've seen 10-point line movements on totals. Believe me, if they're comfortable and they're confident in their number, there's no way they're going to move it that much. But because they're not, it's beatable. And any market that's beatable, that's what you got to exploit. I don't care whether you enjoy watching the game or not. If you do this for money and not entertainment like I do, then I don't care what I'm getting my money down on. I just want to make sure I have an edge and can overcome that big.
Well, one of the things with me, and this was, a lot of times when I'll quote or say things, I'll do the nerd research and be able to say precisely. I was debating with somebody on some key numbers of what the real value was, and I did all the research to prove my point. But what I'm about to say is just something that I've heard from people that I respected, and to be honest, over the years, especially in the middling, I've seen it so much that to me, it's not just a coincidence that beating college basketball, and specifically when you're trying to middle, you have up until conference play for the most part. Because from the beginning of the season at conference play, like you said, the fluctuations and the way these lines bounce back and forth, it's such a huge edge for the player. You're going to get such a variance in the number that historically, by the time we get to conference play, the book's numbers are a lot more solid and a lot more precise, that the middle opportunities in terms of hitting them lessened. I would get, sharp plays or whatever it is. They weren't hitting at the rate. I mean, from the start of the season and as you get closer to the conference play, it's sometimes like that first month, it's almost like stealing in a way because the lines are so bad. I mean, do you disagree? And real quick is, I hate people that just like sit there and like look at the wall. If I can't see him and go do this, dude has no idea what he's talking about, and say, oh yeah, JD, you're right. So me and you got a good relationship. For what I just said, do you agree or disagree with that?
No, 100%. I mean, anybody's going to tell you. I mean, most of the guys that I know are licking their chops, and guys have been asking me if I was able to get down on the preseason, believe it or not, in NBA, because it is so beatable. I mean, you got to remember, these odds makers, they're focused on football right now. Don't get me wrong. Most of the biggest shops, they have guys that are specialists in each sport. But you got to remember, there's a big difference between what product's going to be out there on the court and what the data reflects, especially early on. And these guys are going on stats from last year. They're going on power ratings from last year that they just adjusted based on free agency, based on some trades. And let's not forget, they have to factor in public perception as well, which is always going to be the reason why this market's so beatable and why it's not as efficient as it would have been. So there's no argument there. There's no argument there that it is extremely beatable, and early on it is like stealing because the numbers are so soft.
What are you doing right now, VR? Let's get to some tips. We're about 5-6 days away from the NBA. We're about 2 weeks or so away from college basketball. What would you recommend to our people listening and watching now? And like I said, the last webinar we did, last time I checked, I think it was up to 1,800 different people watched it. What would you recommend to everybody to prep themselves and not play catch up with the season, when it starts? And do it from a recreational thing. I mean, it's easy to say for someone like you, who this is what you do. I mean, you could put in the 8-10 hours a day, researching every team, all the different stuff, making phone calls. If you were giving some tips to somebody who has recreational type time to do this, what would you recommend?
Honestly, it's simple. I keep it as simple as I have to be, and forget all that talk. Focus on one conference. Focus on the teams around your city. Sure, as the season goes on, that's great. You'll gather information that may not be factored into the line by reading what the beat writers say and stuff like that. But let's not kid ourselves, bro. That takes a lot of time. That's the stuff that we do. That's the stuff that readers do that get paid by all these lines, guys that are moving these lines. So it's someone that's going to have a job and have his family and stuff like that does want to bet, and although it's entertainment, wants to at least have a chance to turn a profit. It's simple, man. You need to respect the people that do make money long term, and the best way to do that is by pay attention to the line moves. It really is that simple. I mean, I'm not saying that you could make money blindly betting all the line moves, because let's not forget, once a line moves too much, the value is gone. And many times the value flips. It goes from side A being the value side to side B being the value side. So I'm not saying just look at your lines and whatever line moved 3, 4, 5 points, jump on it, because more times than not, it's too late. But what I'm saying is know not to fade it, number one. Don't lose money by going against these guys, because they put in a lot of time and they're betting a lot of money. And they don't do this for entertainment. They don't do it for recreation. And more importantly, when you see it on non-marquee games, when you see it on smaller teams, the Wisconsin Green Bays, when they're getting some respect, rest assured, it's wise guy money behind it. So number one, I want to respect what these guys are doing. And now with all the line services out there, that's easy to do, to see what the line opened at, where it's at now, what the public money's doing, just to ensure that it's not based on public money. And we have all that stuff available for free at Pregame. So I'm not even telling you to spend $1 to get that information. But then you want to take it to the next level. I know you're going to hear, buy the Blue Ribbon college basketball book. I've read it cover to cover, dude. It's great information. It's good for radio. It's good to know your stuff. But it's only going to give you so much of an edge, because 95% of that stuff that you're going to read cover to cover, it's already factored into the line. And unless you find a piece of information that's not factored into the line, forget about it. You don't have an edge. It's like when people say, it's snowing, I'm going to bet the under. If you bet the under before the line moved, of course, you got value. But if you bet the under when it was 37 and now all of a sudden it's 31 and a half, and just because it's snowing, sure, you might cash that ticket, but you didn't have no value there, because it was already, the snow was already factored into the price. When there's injuries, if it's factored into the price, what kind of information is that? So believe me, all those guys, all those handicappers, odds makers, bookmakers, they've all read those same magazines cover to cover. They've checked all those websites cover to cover. They're creating their power ratings just like everyone else. So keep it simple. Look at the lines. And number two, circle the marquee teams, the most hyped teams coming into the season, and fade their asses. The entire first month, fade them. Lakers, fade them. Heat, fade them. North Carolina, Kentucky, fade them. It's simple. They're going to be overvalued. That's it. Long term, you're going to make more money fading them than betting them. And you just got to keep it that simple if you don't have the time to put in all the work. So fade the marquee teams that you know they're charging a premium. Bet the discounted teams that you know you're getting a deal on. And finally, respect the guys that slap these books around and force them to move their lines.
Hey, real quick.
Damn straight.
How many Red Bulls do you do before the show?
I haven't done any. I swear to you. And actually, I stopped drinking Rock Stars because not healthy. And I was doing the sugar-free one, but I'm been on this little health kick, trying to get healthy. And no, now it's just I do the coffee. The espressos. Right now, I have water in front of me. I'm not even wired, dude. I'm not even wired up.
That's what Marco got.
I'm wound like this. You know me well enough now. I'm wound
over there, and I'm like, Marco, those are bad for you. He's like, how? I go, it's like 50 grams of sugar, Marco. He's like, and he's like, look, like you don't understand it. Real quick, for everyone, one of my favorite Marco stories is I was crashing at his house, and we were rushing into the office, and I was like starving, and he's like, here, he goes, these are healthy. He goes, they're like these little breakfast bars. So he grabs me like 5 of them. I said, Marco, why are you grabbing me so many of them? And I go, they're small, like they're 100-calorie breakfast bars. He's like, yeah, they're small, so that you could have 5 of them. I go, no, you're supposed to have 1 because that's why they're less calories. You don't take 5 or 6 of them. I go, that's the whole purpose of it, just 1 individually wrapped breakfast bar because it's less calories, less sugar, less everything
Marco,
else.
Man.
Just because it's small doesn't mean you eat like 6 or 7. Or my other favorite Marco story. I know we'll get to the basketball, but I can't help but bust his balls. The first time that I ever crashed at his house, I was on a health kick also, and I knew how shitty he ate. So I demanded he took me to the grocery store because I was staying in his house for like 5 days, and I was getting Greek yogurt. I mean, I'm not like some vegan or anything, but I was at least trying to eat somewhat healthy. I mean, because if anyone's ever been to Marco's house, like literally, it's like Halloween. Like everywhere in his house, there's a bowl of different candies somewhere. It's like you could dress up like a cartoon character, walk around with a bag and say trick or treat, walk out like 17 different candies from Marco's house. So we're walking through to the checkout line, and he's standing, and he gets like this look on his face like he just seen a ghost, and he jogs off. He comes back huffing and puffing, and he's holding his ice cream that he originally bought under one arm, and he's like kind of hunched over, like huffing to himself, and he lifts up, looks at me, and he holds up like this prize of this bag of Reese cup like minis, and he looks at me, he's like, oh, almost forgot these. He was like, can't have ice cream without Reese cups. I go,
Marco, man.
I go, oh, Marco. So we got
never gonna change, bro.
Yeah, no shit, right? His way of eating healthy is like the funniest shit to me. But we're gonna move on because we got a bunch of questions. So let's go. After a tough.
Dropping. I wanted to hear "Drop the Bomb," baby. Drop the bomb.
Someone told me yesterday they wanted theme music, man. Well, I got stuck in a traffic jam. I was trying to put together some theme music for us to add a little more humor.
No Gat Band today. No Gat Band.
Well, shit, you played half the card tonight, man. So I hope tomorrow when I do the morning video, I don't got to hate on you. Because I got to be honest.
Hell no.
Look, I'm
on fire, dude. I'm on fire.
You are.
You could bet my baseball World Series. You could bet my baseball World Series shit till you run out of money for the last 5 years.
What we'll do is I'll take the questions. I'll answer quick because I babble, but only VR's the only one at pregame that can actually babble more than me. So I'll answer quick, so maybe I can steal some of his thunder, so he'll actually lessen what he's gonna say. After a tough Sunday, what's the best thing a handicapper could do the following week? My advice is this: you take all the games that you lost and won, and you look over everything about the game and see what you missed. If you had the good number, if you bet a bad number, that's something you write down. I got the shitty number. If I would have held back and not bet it, I wouldn't have lost that game. For example, I hit a middle on Sunday. I had a 7.5 from a square shop in the Vikings game, and I had a 6.5 somewhere else. What you bet, same thing with the Lions game. Brought this up on Hook's webinar. The thing that I hate the most is when you constantly hear people say, I love this team, and they never say I love this team minus or plus X. Knowing that number is so important. The second thing is look at the box scores. Was it a bad beat? Were there bad turnovers? If you could look through everything and it was just one of those rough weeks, don't change anything. If you bet a bad number, there's certain things about a team's offense or a matchup that you didn't catch. Look through everything, catch it, and don't make the same mistake twice. VR, after a tough Sunday, what's the best thing a handicapper could do the following week?
Honestly, number one is you got to get over it, because it's simple. If you don't know going in that you're going to have some losing days, and I tell everyone this, until you're able to overcome losing, you're never going to win, because it's part of it. And I know that sounds simple, but it really is. You got to keep it like that, because if you go in thinking you got to win every bet or win every week, or worse, you wager as if you have to win that game, you're never going to make money doing this. So stop dreaming, stop wasting your time, and just do it as a recreational bettor, or be a degenerate gambler and hope you're one of those 1 in a million that makes a score, which I met very few. You got to be able to understand you're going to lose. But more importantly, also understand why you win. I never move on without looking at my wagers and trying to learn, not just from every win, but from every loss. Meaning, what did I do wrong? Maybe I shouldn't have played this. Maybe I forced this play. Maybe I shouldn't have took this number. You know what I mean? Or maybe I did do the right thing, and when I look at the box score, the team just didn't cooperate with me. Or more importantly, maybe they did, and when I look at the box score, it just shows me that something happened. There was a fluke mistake. And therefore, when I see this opportunity again, I'm going to bet it. I'm not going to let that one result change what I'm going to do. It's not going to make me change my game. You got to trust your work, man. You got to trust your wagers. And like I said, I don't care who you are, how long you've been doing this. You have to try to learn something from each win and each loss. And you got to be honest with yourself when you get lucky, because if you keep making the same mistake and you think you're going to have a different outcome, it's not going to happen. Eventually, it's going to catch up with you. It's just like those times you make a big bet on Monday Night Football and you know you bet more than you should have, and yet you cash that ticket. Bro, I don't care how much money you made. I promise you, you will go broke. There's no two ways around it. It's the habit that's why you're going to go broke. It's not the game you picked. It has nothing to do with your picks. It's the habit. And that habit eventually is going to cost you money. So the way you become successful, like anything, forget it, sports betting, I don't care what it is. I don't care if you're an electrical contractor, if you're a doctor, is by eliminating bad habits and maximizing good habits. And we all have bad habits, bro. I wouldn't have been in this racket if I didn't have some gamble in me. There hasn't been a Sunday of NFL since I was probably 12 years old that I don't have a parlay card. But I've learned to minimize my mistakes, and my parlay card is not going to make or break my week. My parlay cards is going to be about 1/10 of a regular straight bet. But if I don't put that parlay in, I'm going to start getting the itches. I'm going to start going through withdrawal because I know I got gamble in me. So what I got to do is try to train myself and retrain myself. And you got to eliminate those things that cost you in the past. That's it. All us bettors have done this long enough. The majority of us, I bet 90% of the people on this phone call know what to do, know how to do it, but just aren't able, just don't do it. More people are sharper than ever. I'm amazed at the stuff people tell me on Twitter. I'm amazed by reading people's posts at Pregame, no lie, and people's blogs. Compared to when I was getting in the game, I would have sounded like a damn idiot if I would have wrote half the stuff that I thought how it worked back then. These people, you know what you know the mistakes you're making. You know what you're doing wrong. And what separates the successful from the non-successful is that the successful people, whether it's people that went to school, whether, like I said, people that are blue-collar workers, the ones that become successful are the ones that keep doing the right things more times than not and do them over and over and minimize their mistakes. It's that kid in school that went and got his degree and became an attorney because he kept going, even though it was tough, even though he had to avoid a party one night. He kept going, he kept going, he kept going, and he kept doing the right thing, and it pays off. Same with sports betting. If you don't do the right things, it's not going to pay off for you. If you do the right things, especially when you're knowledgeable and you're educated, because in today's world you can be educated, you can be knowledgeable when it comes to sports betting. So many wise guys and sharps out there are opening their doors and putting out so much good stuff out there that anyone could arm themselves and be dangerous for the sports books. But you know what the sports books do? They bank on the fact that's not what people are going to do. They sit back and they wait for people to make the mistakes they know they're going to make. It's as simple as that. That's why they only need that small of an edge. That's why at blackjack they only need a half percentage on you, because they know they're going to bet big at the wrong time. They just wait for you to make the mistakes. That they give enough rope for people to hang themselves, and more times than not, that's exactly what people do. Even though, really, if you sit them down and that you told them what's the way to win, they more people than not that bet and lose know how to win. They just don't want to do what it takes.
And we've all been there. And like you said, I put in a lot of junky stuff, and you know, I bet every Super Bowl no matter what. And I'm not gonna lie, if I hit a big middle or a big score and I'm sitting at home at night, I've thrown in those second half Laker parlays just trying to, you know. So I put all this time and effort to be smart and middle and get the key numbers, and I get a score and I look at it, and all of a sudden $3,000 is $3,000 to me. $3,000 needs to be 6. 6 needs to be 9 and 12 and 15 and so on. So I 100% agree with you. The next question is, and I'm going to start first to kind of like preface of where we're going to go with this. If someone wants to know our thoughts on the whole Pinnacle Cantor thing, is I don't really have any comments on Cantor. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's going on that I don't know. I don't want to speculate. Cantor's been a really good friend of Pregame. If one person made some bad decisions, I'm not going to throw him or that company under the bus. I mean, everything's going to eventually come out. I will offer an opinion on Pinnacle. This is, in fact, this is only my opinion. I felt that the day that Pinnacle left the U.S. market, that they were the smartest offshore sports book in the world. They didn't go out in handcuffs. They didn't go out with their domain getting seized. They didn't go out with a bunch of bank accounts. The U.S. government put in a law. They got a little scared. They made a shitload of money. They had a big enough market and people overseas. They pulled out of the U.S. market, and for the most part, they shut down all U.S. credit accounts. Well, a couple that I had, they're like, nope, the guy's done. In a year or so, if you knew the right people, you were able to get into Pinnacle, but at that point, you had to use an IP mask. So even if they were taking guys in credit, they were still paranoid, still under the radar, didn't want to piss off the government. You logged in with US IP, they blocked you. So you'd have to mask your IP. But a year after that, it was a little easier to get a Pinnacle account. You still had to mask your IP. Then it was easier, and then they didn't really give a shit about the IP. And probably in the last year or so, it seemed like everyone was getting Pinnacle accounts again. And to me, like with anything, any true crime book you read, any true crime documentary, any movie you see of some famous gangster, drug dealer, mob guy, whatever it is, it's never enough. They walked away. They got away. They missed the action. They missed the buzz. They missed the money. They crept in. Then they kept pushing. And the bottom line is this. I don't care how smart you are, how connected you are, if you're using toss phones, fake names, dressing in disguises, you can't fuck with the U.S. government. In the end, the feds are going to get you. They got unlimited resources, and to me, that's the mistake Pinnacle made. I don't have any comment on Cantor or VR. Go ahead. Like I said, let's just stick to your thoughts on the whole offshore thing. Let's leave Cantor out of it. What do you got to say about that?
Yeah, leave Cantor out of it, because again, they like it's a rogue guy. I mean, come on, the company that their sports book is what, a page in their annual report, you know what I mean, of all their holdings and stuff like that. So I mean, you know, let's tell it like it is. That sports book at least. So I'll tell you this, it happens every year, dude. Come on, since I've got into the game, it happens every year. There's a reason every football season, before everything went offshore, before when books were taking work out of apartments, out of basements, out of pizza shops, there's a reason during football season you moved your office and you change your telephone numbers 2 times at least, because that's when the raids come every year. That's when it's front page news. It's during football season. That they also know everyone's making money at that time. Everyone has money to post up bail. Everyone has money to pay fines. Everyone's willing to plead out because it's a gambling pinch. It's going to be blown out of proportion. I bet if you Google gambling bust last 2011, something's going to come up that happened between September and December in 2011, and something probably happened in 2010. If not, then it was 2009.
Yep.
Because they were, it was a 2-year or 3-year investigation. It's nothing
big
new.
one last year was the Five Dimes Jazz Crown Sports.
Exactly. I didn't even think about it. You know what I mean?
And I think it was the same DA office out in New York. 32 people in 7 states. So we're gonna go to the next question.
And then and here's what happens. And then you look in the paper and you see about, I'm not stereotyping, but it is what it is. You see about 30, 40 Italian names. No big deal. It's over. The guys that have been pinched more than once have it a little tougher. The guys that it's their first pinch, they pay a fine, they plead it out. It's no big deal, and life goes on. Nothing changes for anybody. It's just some outs are dried up a little. The pipeline freezes. It's a little harder to get money to the desert and from the desert back east. And, I mean, it's the same hoops everyone jumps through. For me, I know I woke up today.
Plays on. And the band
nothing's changed. You woke up today. You deal with so many offshore. You deal with so many sharks. Did business change for you? Nothing changed for me.
The only thing that changed, I had some people mention to me, is because it was Pinnacle, that their movement today wasn't as dramatic.
Yeah, and guys that have sheets with Henry are worried or asking, do you think I'm going to get pinched? Do you think I'm going to get pinched?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That's the only thing I've had to deal with.
And VR, this question is solely for you because I'm, obviously in the Metro Detroit area. Do you sit at the win for openers, or are the limits too low? Are you one of those guys that, like Brian, that sit there camped out at the win to bet those openers, or are you just doing your own thing?
No. I'll tell you why, and I'm not knocking it. And I love those guys, and I was one of the guys that did it to Stardust, and and it wasn't with my money, so it was a lot easier. But guys that are doing it with their money, I respect that, like you wouldn't believe. But here's the thing, how I look at it. If I know I'm going to be able to get only 2 dimes down, and not saying 2 dimes is a small bet, it's a big bet, but I'm saying let's just say you're getting 2 dimes down and you're only betting, 3 games. You can only get down if you're lucky, you beat them to 1 game, 2 games, 3 games. Let's say you're phenomenal at it. They put out weak numbers, and that week you beat them to 2 games. All right, that's $4,000 that you got down in action. Now, you got to overcome that 4.5% edge that they charge laying 11 to 10. Let's say you're able to do that. Let's say you're able to swing it in your favor 1.5%, which is so rare. But let's say you're that good and you could change it 1.5% in your favor. Off that 4,000, you know how much you made? $60 long term. That's your EV for that bet. So for me to make $60, it's not worth it to put in all that work and beat the number. I look at it long term, guys. I've done this forever.
That's tax on those shirts you wear in the videos.
That's
like a button.
That's what I'm gonna. If I could beat them to 2 numbers, that's what I expect to earn long term off those bets, $60. So for me, it's not worth the time I'm going to put in and have to sit there for 4 hours. And don't get me wrong, there's guys that make a great living doing that because they're so good at it. They maneuver, they set up so many middles. Brian sets up so many middles. He works so many different things. He's not down there to make $60 off those 4,000 in bets. He's down there to move all kind of different money and maneuver all kind of different plays for later in the week. So it's a different story. Everyone's doing something different. But it's just a game for me that right now is not worth entering. The money's not there enough to me to be able to manipulate. They put out a virgin number because it's great marketing. They don't put out a virgin number because wise guys could go in there and get rich, is what I'm trying to say. It's like the Stardust where I knew I could go in there and I could get a virgin number and I could plow them over, and I could keep betting into it because Lupo's not even going to adjust his line. He's going to let you, you know what I mean? When Lupo was back there, go ahead, give me 5 more, give me 5 more, go ahead, give me 10 more. Those days are gone. Now when they put out virgin numbers, except for Canner, which takes 10,000, before the season starts, everyone else does it for publicity. The Golden Nuggets game of the years, you got to wait in line, put in a $1,000 bet, and there's 50 people down there, and there's newspapers, and they're taking pictures and articles. That's for publicity, man. That's not, I don't know. It is what it is.
We've got a couple more questions, VR. I apologize to everyone. There's no way we're going to get to all the ones that are in queue. I do want to go over some futures with VR, so I'm going to have to take about 6 more minutes. I'm going to break away. Next question. VR is a recreational bettor on a college budget. What is the best way to get a quality line service for the upcoming basketball season? I'm going to go first, VR. Sorry to kind of my webinar. I'm going to steal the thunder, and then I'll hand it off to you. is outside of the Don Best or the sports options in terms of the paid ones, that those are your only real options on a budget. To be honest, what the lines at Pregame as of now are, they are a slightly delayed sports options line service. So what you see at Pregame is pretty close to a paid line service with a smaller delay. So unless you do have the budget to buy a full-time line service, that's unfortunately the level of the one you're going to have to watch. Outside of that, we are looking to add some features to the Pregame lines and speed up and lessen that delay for all of our users. But, just to be honestly and blunt, I'm not going to tell you something you want to hear just to say it. Is unfortunately, if you don't have the budget to buy it, then you're going to be stuck with what's at Pregame. But if you are interested in a line service, I am really close with Rick, the owner of Sports Options. I've known him since he ran Don Best. And anyone that I send to him directly, you don't have to call and talk to some sales rep. You can actually call Rick direct on his cell phone. Rick will take care of you and go below whatever the price is on the website. So, VR, is there anything I missed, or you want to move on?
No, I agree with you 100%. But I'd say instead of concentrating and putting your energy into line services, unless you're really moving money and you're trying to beat half points and stuff like that, I would more put my energy into finding more outs. You're going to get more value by having more outs than you will by any line service. You'll get your half a point better a lot more by having more outs, more access to lines that you could actually bet into instead of just look at.
Next question. What is the parlay? What is the best parlay to do, generally speaking? What number of team and bets in a parlay is just getting stupid and dreaming? 5 to 6, more is 3 to 4 bets. To me, when I'm trying to go for the gutso or I'm trying to go for the kill, I'm not going to lie, I'm a junkie. I'll bet those bigger parlays and round robin them if I'm up money. If you're asking my advice for the best parlay, it would be 2 teams, and it would be ones that are giving you the closest to true odds. What you want to do is you want to look at the payout odds in the FAQ area, whatever that site is, or go through without submitting the bets through all of your outs, because it's eventually going to add up, and you're going to be shocked when you look and see the identical parlays at different places, different phone guys, what your end result is, and that adds up. And to me, if you want the simplest advice, football, side to total, 3 to 1, meaning that the total is 3 to 1 or more, or the side is 3 to 1 or more of the total. So say, for example, Florida minus 21 and the total is 45. You take the favorite in the over, the dog in the under, because there's a correlation for the favorite to cover, the game's going to go over, and there's a correlation if the dog's going to cover, the favorite's not going to obviously be covering, so it's going to be a lower scoring game. And there's a lot of sports books to prove what I just said. Go to 5 Dimes, find a college game with a high spread and a lower total, try doing a parlay on it, and let me know if they allow you to do it. If they don't allow you to do it, there's a reason why. My point's proven. VR, back to you. What's the best parlay to do? Generally speaking, what number of team bet or bets in a parlay is just getting stupid and me dreaming? 5 to 6 teams. Should I do more? Is a 3 to 4 teamer best?
The only parlays worth doing are correlated parlays. I mean, let's tell it like it is. Anything else, it's you're gambling, and the more teams you add to it, the higher the hold is. So none of them are valuable. But with that said, like I said at the start of this, I toss them in because especially those times that I'm running hot, and I know I'm going to turn in a couple 4-0 days, 5-0 days, or whatever. It's always nice when you pick up 20 to 1, 30 to 1, 40 to 1 on your money. But I could promise you, I've been lucky enough to hit a big long shot parlay, like a 18-10 team parlay over the year. When you do this 20 years, you're going to hit one. You're due. The true odds of hitting a 10 teamer are probably less than 1,500 to 1 or whatever.
Right.
So I mean, you're going to hit one if you put that many in. I probably put 3 times that. But am I ahead on parlays? Absolutely not. I don't know anyone that is, except the betting syndicates and, when we do like you do, JD, with the parlay cards, where you get 2, 3 points better, and then you just use that game to tie up numbers. It's different. Parlay cards are beatable. That's why they don't have 12 of them anymore at every casino. They only have 2 or 3. And when a number moves too much, that's why it's off the card. They are beatable, and there's betting syndicates out here and all over the country that make their money destroying parlay cards. But for the recreational bettor, a parlay is a gamble, man. If you're going to toss it in, but let me put it to you this way. If you're betting $100 a game on a Sunday, you should have one parlay for maybe $10 or $20, and put in a 6, 7, 8 teamer, and consider that money lost as if you bought lottery tickets. It's just not going to pay you as good as lottery tickets the one time you do catch lightning in a
But then
bottle.
you could brag to all your friends that you hit it. 2 more questions. Then we're going to move on to some stuff I want to talk about, and then from there we're going to go right to the coupons like we always do. AVR, what's up with your boy Philly Godfather these days? I just want to say I got to give your boy props. For an old school street guy that wasn't raised in the internet, I like his new site. I like Philly. He's a funny dude. But I mean, that's your old school homie, so I'm going to let you elaborate.
Bro, I'm going to tell you this. I love Philly Godfather to death. I mean, me and him go way, way back, way, way back. And if it wasn't for him, I don't know if I would have been this far along in sports betting. And I definitely wouldn't have had the network I have or gotten into moving steam if it wasn't for Philly Godfather. So my loyalty to him is unquestionable. We've been that close. We lived together, I mean, for a while. So we've gone to war. We've had a lot of history, me and him. So I'm all good for it. I love what I see from him. He's working hard. He loves what he does, and the best part about it is he's the real deal. It's not bullshit. You know, anybody could go out there and make stuff up. You could sit in your basement and make stuff up over the internet. But the good thing about him is it's the real deal.
Yeah, he's a badass too. And I don't know if you want to say this story, but one of my favorite stories is the one with the weights. Are you allowed to tell that one or no?
No, there's a lot of good stories about him, bro. There's a lot of good stories about him.
So dropping the weights.
I'd like him to be on to share some. There's not the man to mess. He's a tough kid, and he's been through some things. So yeah, he's the real deal. Let's put it. I've grown up around a lot of real people that are the real deal and a lot of fakes, and he's the real deal.
All right, last question before we get to what I want to talk about, which is going to be some look aheads to the season, and then we're going to get to the coupon. When capping games, how much do you factor in where the money is going? I don't believe professional sports is fixed towards an outright winner, only because it's nearly impossible to prove. But I'm also not naive enough to think points can't be shaven or referee cannot determine the point spread. I'd rather be on the right side of fix rather than cry fix. Thank you, guys. You're the best. So do you factor in, I guess the way I would answer it is I factor whose money is going in there and not where the money's going.
Exactly. I told you. As far as the public goes, sure. I ask all the books what they're betting, and not because I'm going to fade them blindly, because I'm not getting 11 to 10, so I'm not going to make any money fading the public blindly. But I do want to know, because if I think a team's overvalued or undervalued, and I start to see that the public is betting a certain way that helps me confirm my feelings stronger, then that's valuable to me. But as far as like worrying about the fix and stuff like that, and unless somebody tells me they have something good, that's not part of my handicapping. And the only reason I want to know where the money's going is, like you said, I want to know who's betting what, whose money it is going where. You know, if it's an outfit that's getting killed in baseball, then I don't give a shit that they're betting these games. I'll know that that's why the book's moving it, because they have a history of winning long term. So every time they bet, the book's going to move it. But if I know this isn't their year and they're getting killed, it's something that I'm not going to piggyback. I'm not going to jump on. And on the other side, if there's a guy that right now that's killing totals, you know what I mean? And every time he bets, I want to know, because I want to piggyback it. And if I like it to begin with, I'm going to bet even more on it. If he's against mine, then I respect him enough, because I've seen his work, where I'm going to, pass, baby. I'll pass. Saving money is just like making money to me. So I have no ego, baby. No ego. Check it at the door. Check it at the door if you want to make money. Don't come in. Don't bring it in. Don't bring it in
Don't
here.
bring it in VR's house. We got about 7 minutes left.
No room.
I guess I should have prepped better, and I'm going to tell RJ to take some money out of the budget and have someone train you how you could actually log into this damn thing so you could see the shit we're looking at. So real quick, NBA regular season wins. I went over this with Mike Hook. If you don't have it in front of you, like I said, I apologize. I didn't prep you and send you these. So if there's any teams you don't know off the top of your head, I could tell you what they are. Any teams that you feel that you like. I don't think they're going to surprise anybody, go on some crazy playoff hunt. but I like the Detroit Pistons over 32 wins. I think that they're going to be competitive enough that they're going to get over that mark. I don't think they're going to be one of those surprise teams that people are going to be looking at saying, oh my God, look at the Pistons. Where did this come from? But I do think that they're going to go over that 32 wins. I think it's a lot based off how horrible they were last year, but towards the tail end of the season, what I'm hearing out of camp and whatnot, I think it's going to go over the 32. What teams are you looking at, or have you bet any season win totals yet in the NBA?
I'll tell you what, as far as season win totals, because the season's so long, and with NBA, you got to remember, they don't have 50 guys. You know what I mean? So extremely thin in some spots. And I worry about holding tickets for that long on season win. The holds higher when it comes to like futures to win the NBA championship, but those are the bets I like to play more because I think I could earn from them later in the season. But a couple things that I'm just going to add to that, and I'm sure Mike Hook shared a ton more information on that than me, and I would value his opinion. But as far as myself, I say the teams that are going to be overvalued. Chicago won 50 games last year. Betting them over, you're not going to make any money doing it. Miami won 46 games last year. You're not going to make money betting them over. Oklahoma City won 47 games. You're not going to make money betting them over. San Antonio, 50 games last year. You're not going to make money betting them over. Lakers got Dwight Howard and Stephen Nash. You're not going to make any money betting them over. Teams like that, either bet under or leave it alone. The only way you're going to make money off them is later in the season or when the playoffs come, or if you have a future on them and you're willing to tie up your money for that long, which really isn't worth it if you're going to get 2-1, 3-1, 4-1. But that's pretty much what I'm looking at. And then I'm looking at the teams like the Charlottes, who only won 7 games. I think they're going to be you're going to get value on teams like that. Teams like Minnesota won 26 games, Sacramento 22 games, New Orleans 21 games. I think teams like that, especially if you believe they're going to be a little bit improved, I think that's where the value is, taking teams like that over and taking those other teams under.
Speaking of futures, is there any teams that you're looking at? Me and Mike were talking about it. I think it sounds homerous. I'd prefer to get something with more value. In the NBA, I like the Lakers this year. I'm just not a LeBron fan. I'm not betting it just because I'm not going to hit, like you said, I'm not having my money tied up at 2-1 for the whole season. So if I'm going to bet something, it's going to be, in college basketball, it's going to be something like Arizona at, plus 3,500 rather than a team that's 2-1 and you get to hold my money for 3 months. So in the NBA, for NBA championship futures, is there any value on any teams that you're aware of or that you've played already?
No, I haven't yet. But here's the one thing why I will play a couple, because in the NBA, everybody makes the playoffs. That's the problem. But with that said is I'll be looking for futures. I'll be looking to bet favorites, and here's why. Because I think I could earn from them, because a team like, Boston, a team like Chicago, a team like Miami, the ones that I said are overvalued on season wins, I think you're better off having a ticket on them to win it all, because not only are they more probable, but because you could earn off that ticket. Because when the playoffs come around, they're going to be favored to win their series. Game by game, more times than not, they're going to be favored. They're going to be laying points. So I could come in and work a hedge by taking a dog at plus money or with points. So I'm not looking to take a team like the Milwaukee Bucks and hope they have a great season, or Atlanta Hawks and hope this is the year where they could win more than one round in the playoffs, or the Knicks, they catch fire. I mean, let's tell it like it is. There's only a small number of teams that have a legitimate shot to win an NBA championship. There's a small number of teams that have a legitimate shot to win in the NFL, and rarely do we get a gem. I mean, look at this year at Detroit. They were favored coming into the season to win in the AL. Sure, everyone jumped off them, but now here they are in the World Series. San Fran, sure, maybe they weren't a favorite coming in, but here's a team that just was in the World Series when? 2 years ago? So it's no surprise, that's how I look at it. I try to keep it simple. Sure, it's great when you win in Chicago White Sox like I did at 50-1 in 2005, but here we are 7 years later, and I haven't seen a team like that come in since. So I'm not looking for the Orlando Magic and, like I said, the Utah Jazz or Portland's because I don't think I could make money off them when the playoffs roll around.
And that's a great point. I mean, you get a Chicago at an 18-1, like you said, is you're getting the 18-1 because teams like the Heat or the Lakers or an Oklahoma City are so overvalued. If you get that break and the Bulls go on and they're playing, say, the Heat to go to the title, or they play the San Antonio, Oklahoma City in the championship, the Heat's not going to be fair. You're not going to get 18-1 in a series bet against the Miami Heat if you're a healthy Chicago Bulls. And like you said, is you could hedge out and you could lock in some money. I know you got your radio show, so we're going to end about 2 minutes early. I'm going to give the coupon, and then I'm going to give you 2 minutes to talk about this upcoming weekend. If there's anything you want to share,
thank you.
Why anyone should be investing with you. When you put in the time, we're the only major site that I'm aware of in this business that put in so much time in these videos and podcasts, and we'll go the whole time without even mentioning to buy picks. So the coupon right now is VRCBB. That gives you 20% off Vegas Runner, any of his basketball subscriptions. Right now is the early bird pricing. You can buy NBA standalone, college basketball standalone, or an NBA college basketball combo. That 20% is actually good off of the currently discounted early bird pricing. And also a VR10 coupon that takes $10 off any one purchase. Both of these coupons do expire in the next 72 hours. So if you're looking to lock in Vegas Runner for either college basketball, NBA, or both, early bird's the lowest pricing, and the only people that are getting this 20% off early bird are the people who are listening to my voice right now, or anyone who watches the archives before the 3 days from now expires. VR, it is 7:56. We're going to close this at 7:58 to give you time to prep for your radio show. 2 minutes. What about this weekend?
Listen, man, I got a max bet going in college, and I got one in NFL. I don't give them out just for the fun of it. When I step up and I fire big, they're my highest winning percentage. I've only given 10 of them this far in the season. We're, 9 weeks into college football, 8 weeks into the NFL, and I've given 10 total. And I got one in college, one in pro, and, oh, yeah, so far I'm 8-2 for the year. So it doesn't get – right now is when I think there's more value than there has been all season, and there's more value that there's going to be going forward, because you got to remember more data means sharper lines. And then when the playoffs come towards that time, and the Bulls, once again, the value's astronomical, and I tell my guys, increase your bet limits because let's do some damage. But right now is the time to clean up. And, I'm never been more confident in my numbers. They speak for themselves. I'm up over 50 units in football, baby. You know what I mean? It doesn't get better than that. So I'm ready to go. You want good information, you want strong information, accurate information. I'd want to at least know what I'm on. That's how I look at it. Whether you're going to piggyback it, fade it, jump on it, whatever, I'd want to know what I'm on because I'm winning. Why would I want to know what someone's winning's on?
Could have said better myself. You know what? It's up there every day at the website, and with all the people that, for what odd reason, sit in their mom's basement hating on you, I really haven't heard them chirping too much lately. It must be getting to them. It's like they're waiting for you to hit a bad run so they can, crawl out of the mom's basement and sit there to their 13 people that listen and say,
tell me how much I suck. Yeah, and tell me how much I suck. Yeah.
VR, you suck. All right, that's going to do it, VR. Good luck on your radio show. Just so everyone knows, VR is the man. I mean, he's going right into a full-time radio show. He worked all day. He fit this in, VR. You have no idea how much I appreciate this. Thanks for everyone.
My pleasure, Jay.
And that's going to do it for me. I'm Johnny Detroit. He's Vegas Runner. And that's it. Take care.
Thanks, brother.